war. I mean, like, I'm going to take you out kind of thing. I remember one morning, early morning, they went to service, and all the kids woke up in the room together, and I don't know what happened, but a fight broke out. There was fighting, there was pulling hair, there was kicking, there was punching, there was smacking. I mean, everything possible. There was, calling each other names, and back then it was like duty head. It wasn't anything serious. But I mean, we were seriously going at it. You ever been there like that? You ever have siblings and you guys have fights like that? Yeah, a couple of us, yeah, we've been there. It's like a war. And it gets personal, it gets ugly. And you're just like, I'm willing to take you out, And we're little kids, we don't know anything. And what's interesting is this. Think about that. Remember those fights, okay? Remember those fights and consider this. After a fight like that, you were very careful in what you talk to your parents about, correct? I mean, you never come before your mom and dad and say, hey, you know what, I know I was in a big fight, but I want a puppy. You never do that. Or, I want a brand new bike. You would not make eye contact with your parents because you're afraid that you would get it again. It's like, I've already been beaten up one time. When my parents came, they dealt with me at that time. I'm not going to ask for anything else because I'm afraid that I'm going to get it again. All right? Why is that? Why are we willing to, why do parents make a big deal about things like this? You know why? Because the way our kids treat each other, it matters to parents. I think all parents can agree with that. Your kids are fighting with each other, that would really bother you. Because these things matter. And it matters to God. That's the thing. It matters to God. How His kids are treating each other, that matters to God. If His kids are fighting or unforgiving or whatever it is, those things matter. How can we receive forgiveness from God over and over and over again, and yet be unwilling to forgive those who have wronged us? Because again, that's the picture, is that we gain forgiveness, I did something else, I need more forgiveness. I did something else, I need more forgiveness, okay? And so then someone does something against me, I should be willing to give them that forgiveness. It's almost as if we are allowing forgiveness to flow through our lives. Because I don't know about you, but forgiving is not easy. And it takes help from someone bigger than me in order to allow me to forgive other people. Because this is some hard stuff. And that's why we need to turn to God for that help. It's like, God, as you've forgiven me, help me to forgive other people. Yes. I've said it before. I think I've said it many times. We're holy people. People with holes. It means that everything that God flows through us needs to go to other people. Just like God has loved us, we love other people. That's what the Bible says. We love because He first loved us. That love flows through our lives. And forgiveness is the same. Is that just as God has extended forgiveness to us, because He has, we are able to forgive other people. Because it's been given to us. That's what needs to happen, is that we need to be people who offer forgiveness to others. Here's the deal. If you feel like God's not answering your prayers, you need to ask yourself, am I forgiving? Ask yourself, am I forgiving? Am I growing in love toward those around me? Forgiveness is only one part of it. Let me give you another verse to kind of give you an idea of how this works. And I need to give a warning before I read this verse. Okay? And this warning is to all the wives in the room. You will be tempted to use your elbows, or if your husband's on this side, you'll be tempted to use your elbows during this verse. So I'm going to encourage you, keep the elbows faced in, and close to yourself. Okay? And no quick elbows, right? Here we go. Ready? You'll see why. Look at this. It says, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them how? What does it say? With respect, as a weaker partner, and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life. And why? Look at this. Why do we treat them with respect? So that nothing will hinder your prayers. So that nothing hinders your prayers. Wow. Husbands, the way you treat your wives affect your prayers. Because your relationships matter. Matter to God. The way we treat one another, it matters to God. And so if you want there to be a free flow of bringing my needs before God and God answering my prayers, then you need to look at the way you're treating other people. Because if you're not loving and encouraging and forgiving other people, then that's going to get in the way of the answer to your prayer. Let's go to point number 2, okay? Let's move on. Number 1, relationships matter. Number 2, your motives matter. Your motives matter. Look at this verse. This is James chapter 4, verse 3. It says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with what? What does it say?
Wrong motives.
With wrong motives, okay? Because you ask with wrong motives. In the New Testament, you can see examples over and over again of the Pharisees who always had wrong motives behind all the things that they did, especially praying. That their prayers were motivated by the fact that they wanted to be seen by other people. Okay? That they wanted to pray these eloquent prayers so those around them could be amazed at how holy, how eloquent they were. So I can imagine what this kind of looked like, after a prayer. If they were like trying to, puff themselves up around the people that they know. And say something like, hey man, did you hear that prayer of mine? Did you hear that? Man, kids don't try this at home. I'm a trained professional. That's not luck there. That's all skill right there. That prayer's that good. That's almost the attitude that they have, is that they wanted to pray in order that people could look at them and say, wow, see that guy, he must be holy. He must be a righteous guy because he prays prayers like that. You may impress others, but you're not going to impress God with prayers like that because motives matter to God. Mm-hmm. Motives matter to God. At the end of verse 3 of James, it uncovers what drives or what motivates many unanswered prayers. Let's look at this verse again. It says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives. And look at this. It says, that you may spend what you get on your what? Pleasures. You know what that means? It's talking about selfishness. That's what it's talking about. It's talking about selfishness. One of the motives that drives a lot of prayers that get unanswered is selfishness. We're wanting to see what we can get out of the situation. I mean, it might even sound good. You're asking for a good thing, but it's tainted by the motive